Shields up, Iron Breakers. Rurikhan here, coming at you with another live stream. Today, I have a guest of honor. Here's Globku. I just realized, Globku, I completely forgot to put your links on the description. I'm a terrible host.
Shame.
I will put the links in the description, and you should promote yourself on chat. Because you can just like copy paste stuff in there. You're a mod, I think, so you should be able to just post links as you wish.
You're right.
Yeah.
You're correct.
That's
my
right.
name's Globku. Anime YouTuber. You guys don't want to be a part of this. Trust me. I'm doomed to play bad anime games for the rest of my life. You don't want to be a part of this. But if you want to check out my work, youtube.com/Globku. Twitter, Instagram, it's all the same. It's all Globku.
And if you're watching this later in the VOD, there should be a link in the description. And if there isn't, make sure to mention it in the comments to remind me, because I'm very forgetful about that stuff. But yeah, I've worked with Globku in the past multiple times. We always have a good time. And the reason I called him here today is because I've played through that Stranding. Globku hasn't played through that Stranding. So
No.
Globku is essentially playing the role of you guys, and he's going to be asking me.
I'm the chat. I'm spamming an emoji right now.
He's going to be asking me all kinds of questions about Death Stranding so that you guys can get an idea of what to expect from the game. I just wanted to get a friend that hasn't played it yet to talk about the game, because I've also imagine what it's like having played this game for 3 weeks and not being able to talk to anybody about it.
And you still can't, sort of, right? You can't just tell me anything I want. It will be...
There's limits to what I can tell you, but mostly the limits are all about story. It's all about story spoilers, because from a mechanical standpoint, I can tell you just about anything, but naturally I'm not going to tell hey, here's all of the boss fights. Here's all of these other things, right?
Yeah, and I wouldn't want to know that, because, that would ruin my experience. So
I'm curious. I'm curious about it, though. I mean, I know that you loved Metal Gear Solid 5 because we both did that whole thing back in the TGN days. And Metal Gear Solid 5 was a game that both of us really enjoyed. Are you excited about Death Stranding?
I'm excited to know what it is more than maybe play it.
That's the funny thing, right? It's I think most people are more interested in knowing what the game is than necessarily whether or not they're going to be playing it.
Maybe I don't need to buy the game after this podcast. We'll find out.
I guess we will.
I mean, I guess first question is Death Stranding anime? Because you have the anime gamer here, so I got to know. Is Death Stranding anime?
Is it anime? I mean,
Metal Gear is anime as fuck. So is this still
you think Metal Gear is anime as fuck?
Oh, totally, dude. Have you ever played Metal Gear 3? There's a dude.
Oh, no. I've never played Metal Gear. I've played 5 and I've played 1. That's my Metal Gear experience.
The Metal Gear Solid games have a lot of anime tropes to them, for sure. And some of them is Japanese culture. So I don't know. I think that Stranding is maybe not as anime as Metal Gear.
I don't think that Stranding is as anime as Metal Gear, but it's got a lot of Kojima in it. The moment you start watching some of the first cutscenes in the game, you're like, oh man, this is definitely a if you didn't know that Kojima was developing the game, but you're someone who knows of Kojima's work, you'd be like, man, this is totally a Kojima game. Right.
Okay.
So that stuff is in there.
You're gathering that because his name appears at the beginning of every mission?
No.
Cinematic camera angles, the way
the cinematic camera angles and all of that stuff. Yeah. And there's one cutscene in particular that I can't talk about because it's really further ahead in the video, but where he constantly breaks the fourth wall. And I don't know. There was something about that cutscene that I thought was really funny.
Norman
but
Reedus kind of does that also in the the break room when
all the time, dude. Yeah. All the time. The first time I saw him do it, I was actually really surprised. So there's this part in your room where as you advance through the game, you get these small little miniatures of that represent bosses that you've defeated or missions that you've completed or stuff like that, right?
Okay.
And you can watch that shelf. You can just click a button and they'll show you what's on the shelf so that you can see the things that you've unlocked, right? And the very first time that I saw that option, I pressed the button and Norman Reedus just walked straight to the camera and looks at you in the eye. And then he aims back towards the shelf and then they zoom into the shell. Like I use that effect in my review as a transition, right? So, but that was like the first time that I saw the first really big fourth wall break, and I was like, "What the fuck? Why is he walking towards the camera, looking me dead in the eye? What's going on?"
That's the game I want, Rory. I just want to play with Norman Reedus. That's all I want. Okay, so the big talk today is the IGN review came out, and I wanted to get your first of all your general feelings on the game. I haven't watched your review, unfortunately. I'm planning on doing it this weekend.
Um,
But general impressions. Happy with the game, unhappy with the game, and in relation to the IGN 6.8 score, is this IGN being IGN, or do you think they
I
actually
mean,
have a reason to?
here's the way that I look at the IGN review. I mean, at the end of the day, I don't do review scores specifically because I don't like using review scores, right? Having
Right.
said that, if I did use review scores, I would say that 6.8 is pretty damn low for the game that I
Mm,
played.
okay.
But the thing is also, this game is not going to be for everyone. And you know how most of the websites, they kind of have like that one guy that does certain games, right? Like, for instance, if you were working at a website, the next
Mm,
anime game, like One Punch Man, the
yeah, definitely.
website would give you that game for you to review because like you would be the anime guy. I think
Yeah.
what they did is they just got Death Stranding and they went over to the Metal Gear guy and they're like, "Here you go, dude. You review this one." But this game is not like Metal Gear. And that guy
Interesting.
might have gone into it thinking it was going to be Metal Gear, and he was probably really disappointed. I haven't
Mm,
read their review though, so I don't know the reasons for
right.
why they gave it a 6.8, but I don't agree with that score. But again, you know, review scores are review scores. Everybody's free to do whatever review score they want. I
Mm,
think that the biggest thing about it is because one of the things that I talk about specifically to the gameplay of the game is that a lot of people are waiting for Kojima to like subvert their expectations. Like they think the gameplay that they've seen up until this point of Norman Reedus carrying a lot of boxes and delivering them and stuff, they expect the game at some point to like change drastically and be a completely different game.
got it.
That doesn't happen.
All right.
The gameplay that you've seen up until
So
this point
we've
is the
seen the core
gameplay.
experience. Yeah.
Yeah,
So we've seen. Okay. Got it. So I don't like. I'm okay with that. At some point, it kind of depends on how much of that you're gonna do, because there's also obviously the story is a big drive for a lot of people in this game,
I love the
and
story.
yeah. So if the writing is good, and there's a lot of like cinematic cutscenes. We've seen some cutscenes in trailers and stuff that just look astounding, and it's that Kojima touch that you mentioned with the different camera angles, the zoom ins, and sometimes the fourth wall breaking. So if those are frequent enough, and then you have the gameplay part of just walking around and managing your loot, uh, then maybe I'm okay with that game not changing drastically.
But here's the
Uh,
thing. There's
yeah.
one thing that most people usually don't talk about, and that I think it's very important, right? So, one of the things that I want to bring up first is I don't think you've ever played like a space trucking game, right?
Not exactly, no.
But you know that I've played stuff like Elite Dangerous, where basically you can have a spaceship and you go
Yeah.
from different space station to space station, and you can do
Yeah.
cargo runs, right? You can go and you can have like, oh, I want to take this cargo to this other station, and throughout the way you might be, you know,
Right.
intercepted by pirates and stuff like
Yeah,
that, and you have to.
the closest I can relate is No Man's Sky, where sometimes I'd gather some materials and travel to a different star system to sell them at a higher price or something like that.
That is a
That's the closest
very
I can
good
relate.
comparison. That's an
Yeah.
excellent comparison. So there's some of that in this game, right? Where, you know, your motivation is for the gameplay loop is kind of like, okay, I want to make this delivery. When you make a delivery, you get rated.
Mm,
They give you like a score for how
okay.
well you were at that delivery. Like how much cargo did you take? How long did it take you to deliver the cargo? How good is the cargo when it arrived there? Because, you know, you normally this can fall, you can damage the cargo. There's
Yes.
the whole timefall thing. You know about timefall?
Timefall, no.
It's a
That is a new
rain.
concept.
No, no, they kind of show this in one of the trailers where there's a guy that gets really
Yeah.
old when it's raining.
Yeah. Sometimes I don't pay attention to trailers on purpose.
Yeah, you shouldn't. I'll be honest. Like one of the things that I really liked about the game, because when I was looking for footage after I was editing the review, I was like,
Mhm.
I started looking at all the trailers and I was like, Jesus, I'm so glad I didn't watch these before I actually played the game. Like,
Okay.
there's just too much information on those trailers, in my opinion. But anyway, in one of the
All right.
trailers, they show the concept of the timefall, which is essentially when it rains, like if the water hits something, it makes that thing experience the passage of time faster. So if you
Cool.
were to shower in timefall, you'd become an old man. And this
Mm,
thing also works for inanimate objects. So that your cargo, when it's raining, it deteriorates faster. So the condition that your cargo arrives in when you actually make the delivery is actually an important part of
gotcha.
the score that you get. And then the more deliveries you make for each person, they might unlock gear, which you
Mm,
can then like, oh, this now I get like an exoskeleton and I can carry more things. And this lets you do more deliveries and be more efficient at it. Or maybe you get a new pair of boots or a new blueprint for something that you can build. And building
okay.
is another key aspect because you don't just kind of like run from A to B. You can actually build an infrastructure that allows you to get from A to B faster. So,
Hmm.
say there's like 3 rivers. And as you are going through these 3 rivers for the first time, you're like, oh man, what a mess. I'm going through the river. I'm getting wet. My character slows down. There's a stamina management thing that you got to do. It's really annoying going through these 3 rivers. You can build bridges so that you go through the rivers faster. And there's
Okay.
like this whole infrastructure. This thing scales. You get to a point where you're building sections of highways.
Right. And those stay there, and they can also be created by other players. I think we've seen that in the demo they've
Exactly.
shown. Okay.
So
And then you can like their
you can
bridge.
you can like the bridges from other players, and they
Right.
receive like I
You've actually challenged my idea of this game in several ways already. So at first, I thought you were going from east to west coast in America, connecting both coasts. So I thought it'd
which
be
you are.
yeah. So I thought there wouldn't be as much backtracking as you're putting it, because like you
Oh,
brought up
dude.
you brought up the concept of space trucking, which is one of the things you do is go back to other stations that you've been to before because you know cargo is valuable there. So is that something you do a lot in this game too?
It's up to you, right? So in the story, they give you like main delivery quests.
Uh-huh.
And as you do those particular deliveries, because there will be like critical supplies for one of the cities or something like that, as you do those deliveries, the narrative advances forward and you see more cutscenes and stuff like that. But
Right.
say, for instance, right, you go to one of the places that you've delivered to, and they give you an exoskeleton, and you're like, man, this exoskeleton's amazing. I want to get a better version of this exoskeleton. So you might want to stick around that place and do more deliveries, and you, maybe at some point they'll give you like an upgraded blueprint of that skeleton and you can craft a new one, a more
And
powerful one.
is that fun, or did you feel at some point that man, I should have just kept going forward?
It's like that's the thing because it's not going to be fun for everyone. It's fun for me because I like the space trucking thing that we were talking about, right? I like the
Right.
concept of making the deliveries and upgrading my gear to be more effective at it. I
Mhm.
like that, but not everybody is going to like that. But I guess the point that I'm trying to make with it is that there's more to it than just like a FedEx quest. Because, like, there's challenges for the first time that you get to an area, the very first time that you're going from point A to point B. There's going to be challenges like, oh, I have to climb up this mountain, right? And you have to
Mhm.
set down ladders, or you'll climb manually. You like Skyrim your way up a mountain, which you can do as well. But like, you place down a ladder, that's better. Then you get to the top of the mountain, you have the option of placing down a climbing anchor with a rope. So that next
Mhm.
time you have to climb that mountain, you use the rope. So it is fun the first time that you go through it because it's like a puzzle. You're trying to solve a puzzle. How am I going to get to this place with all of these things that are in the way? Then there's the BT encounters, which is like heavy rain, and there's like ghosts that you can't touch and a bunch of other mechanics, right? There's all
Mhm.
of these things that can happen the very first time that you do a delivery. And that I found fun and challenging to kind of solve that particular puzzle, as opposed to you just like shooting your way through a camp of enemies or something like that, right? It's a different thing. It's something that you're just going through and you're trying to figure out how to navigate to get from point A to point B in the best way. The problem with the gameplay becomes that after you do that once, and like they give you a delivery that you might have to go back from where you came from, an optional
Mhm.
delivery, maybe not like one of the main story ones. And you'll go back and then like they'll give you another delivery to go to this other place that you were just through, but you just did all of those challenging things and you don't feel like doing them again. So
Right.
ideally, the idea is as you are going through it, you're thinking about what you can do to streamline it so that next time that you have to go through it, it'll be a lot easier. But there's just some routes that are such a pain in the ass to streamline that you're not going to do it. And you
Mhm.
can get burned out from doing the same thing over and over and over again.
Gotcha. Okay. Uh, Speaking of traveling from west to east coast, or the other way around, I guess. So you're going on foot and you're crossing America on foot. That
Yes.
sounds like too big of a game.
Yeah, I mean, it's not actual America sized. And then there's like certain sections of the map where certain events take place that they just kind of like speed you along a large portion
Okay.
of the map,
Okay.
right?
Yeah, that's what I wanted to
Because
know.
there's just like massive obstacles along the way, according
Mm-hmm.
to the story, because of events that take place in the game. And there's
All
just
right.
no way for you to
This
like
is the
build an
dead zone.
infrastructure.
No
Yeah.
one goes in here.
Some
Yes. Okay.
something along those lines. Think of it like
Right.
that. But yeah,
Yeah.
you
Okay. So, because at the same time, from pre-release stuff that I've been hearing, it doesn't sound like the time to beat the game if you just mainline it is that long. So these two pieces of information were conflicting. So,
it's
can you divulge an hour count even?
yes,
Or
yes, we are allowed to say how long it took us. It took me 55 hours to finish the game.
okay, that's a lot.
I didn't do all of the side quests, but I did quite a few of them. Here's the thing about beelining this game though. I think
Mhm.
that if you just beeline it, it's not going to be as fun because if you just beeline, you're not going to get enough materials to like properly navigate the zones. And you're just
Mhm.
like going through these zones potentially in like the worst way possible with not good gear, and it's just not going to be a very fun experience. Whereas if you take your time in some of the zones, like maybe, okay, I see this is a good zone that I can kind of like do some quick deliveries. You go through that zone, you do some of those deliveries so that you get more materials, you get more blueprints, and you get into the hang of things as to how you can actually optimize that specific zone for more deliveries, like the portion that I mentioned where you're actually building out a highway. And if you spend some time doing that, it's going to extend your gameplay significantly. But if you just beeline and you play, because I mean, if you're just going to beeline, my advice to you is just play on the easiest difficulty so that
Right.
you have the least amount of obstacles in your path. Because the difficulty in terms of combat, I didn't even find it to be that. I played on normal, by the way, but I didn't find the combat to be super hard. But if you want to just like finish the game and see the story, you should definitely just play on easy and
Oh, and
skip all.
there's like a cinematic mode or something, right? Something that I heard something Kojima tweeting about a difficulty level for people who don't even play games.
I think that might be the easy mode. I don't know.
Okay.
I just played it in normal and I just went with that because I was kind of scared of getting stuck.
Hmm.
But having said that, I think I do want to try out hard just to see how different the combat can get, or if the difficulties come from potentially more time falls or other weird things.
Mhm. Yeah. Do you feel like combat would benefit from a harder difficulty, or how fun is it? Kind of that's the question. Is combat something you just want to get through, or is it something that's fun to engage with?
It's both. That's that's the weird part. It's both because here's the thing. Throughout most of the time that you are in the game, you're going to have an objective to deliver something. I would say throughout like
Yeah.
80% of the game, I've always had like a package on my back that had a destination that I wanted to get to. And
Hmm.
when you have packages on you, combat is probably not something that you want to do because there's the chance of your merchandise getting damaged. There's a chance of enemies stealing your stuff. There's a chance of you actually dying and failing the mission and having to start
Hmm.
again. So there's a lot of bad things that can happen while you're on a run doing deliveries. But the thing is, the
Hmm.
combat itself, I found it very satisfying whenever I didn't have something on my back and I could actually just like focus on doing combat because
Hmm.
there's all kinds of combo. Like you got a melee system, you got stealth mechanics, you got guns, you got non-lethal guns, you got lethal guns. There's like all kinds of stuff that you can do with the combat.
Hmm.
But the thing that you also have to remember is that you're not supposed to actually kill people.
Right. Unless they're bad ones.
No, you're just not supposed to kill
Even the
people.
bad ones, even
Yeah,
like the bandits from the camp and stuff like. Okay.
because they transform into BTs.
Oh yeah, that's bad. It's probably
You know what a
yeah.
BT is?
I think so.
So
I I I kind of don't want to know more than I know right now.
okay, you don't want to know more about the BTs.
No,
That's
no, I don't
fair.
want to know more about the VTs. That's story stuff.
I explain a little bit more about the BTs because it's explained very early. Like you get in
Yeah.
contact with BTs fairly early in the game. You kind of have to
Hmm.
deal with it, and they kind of explain to you what BTs are.
Okay. Yeah. Dead people. Got it. So s- when you fight and you defeat enemies, you get stuff, right? They drop.
Yes,
They have drops.
yeah, like
But
not just when you fight and you defeat enemies, but there's actually drops all over the world. There's
mm,
packages all over the world, and these
right.
packages might actually come from another player. Like, say, for
Oh,
instance,
yeah.
something happens with you where you lost a package in your game and you
Hmm.
kept going. You left
Hmm.
the package behind. That package is going to show up in the world of somebody else if you're playing an online mode.
Right.
And then that
Okay.
person can pick up that package and turn it in.
Hmm.
And I think you also get a couple of likes because someone else turned in your package, and that person
Okay.
also gets likes for doing that.
What do you use likes for? What is that for?
To be honest, I don't actually know. I don't
Cool.
think you use them for anything. I mean,
It's
at
true
the
to
end of
life.
the game, they told me, "Hey, you've gotten this amount of likes." As a content creator, I actually hated the concept of constantly getting likes. I was like, "Dude, I already have to struggle with this in real life. I don't have to
It's
struggle with this in the game."
it's that meta experience, sort of like near Automata, where it's like you've helped other players, and here is a number quantifying how much you helped other players.
Dude, but
Basically,
it's
something like that.
it like it goes to the point where when you make a delivery, like
Hmm.
they're giving you the likes as they are rating how good the delivery was. So it's like, hey, you delivered with less than 50% something. Here's 100 likes. You did
Cool.
this thing. Here's 100 more likes. And God, that gets a little bit old really fast.
Mm, gotcha. But I was talking about enemies dropping stuff.
Yes.
Considering the things they drop, or the loot that is present in areas where the game wants you to engage in combat, would you say that this is a game that encourages you to engage in combat or avoid it altogether? Or maybe it's situational. I don't know.
There were certain situations where I wanted to engage in combat to
Hmm.
secure resources.
Hmm.
So here's the thing: there's a certain number of resources in the game, and they're kind of like finite. So if you get into a station and you want to craft something, because they don't just like they give you some gear as you are going out
Hmm.
on these missions, but you might want a specific piece of gear. Like in my case, I would always try to get like maybe additional boots or something like that because your boots wear off after a while. And maybe they
Good.
didn't give you the boots and you want to craft some more. So in order for you
Mm.
to craft anything in the game, whether it's boots, guns, vehicles, anything, you need a certain amount of materials. And there's many ways to get materials. Some of those are you do side quests, right? You do some of these side deliveries, you run from A to B, and you get additional materials. Another way to get materials is you raid some of the camps of these enemies because they have like stockpiles of materials all over their camps. And
Hmm.
basically, when you get to the portion of the game, for instance, where you're actually building sections of highways, they require a lot of materials for you to build each section of the highway. So when I got to that point, I just straight up went into one of the enemy camps, knocked everybody out, and then stole one of their trucks and filled that truck with their materials, and then turned that in to get a bunch of mats to go build more freeways.
Gotcha. Nice.
Capitalism at its finest.
Definitely. So since you have already challenged my perception of this game a couple of times, I guess I'll keep going down the checklist of things I thought this game was, and apparently is not. Uh, do you is this a game where you explore the full map? Because the way I saw that demo was, here's a point A, here's a point B. You have to sort of figure out how you're going to get there, but there are 1,000 ways you could get from point A to point B. Since there is so much backtracking and just clearing challenges in an area, is the map something more akin to a traditional open world game where eventually you're going to explore it all, you're going to see it all?
Uh, let's put it like this: I finished the game and I still haven't seen Jeff Keighley or Conan.
Okay.
So
All right.
you can explore the map. There's like if you go only through the story sections, you don't actually see all of the constructions that there are in the game, all of the how should I call, all of the shelters that there are in the game where people live. One of
Mm.
those that I didn't get to see was Jeff Keighley. Although now, once I figured out where Jeff Keighley was, I realized that I had picked up an item that I was supposed to take to Jeff Keighley, but I never took it to him.
No,
I never took.
poor Jeff.
Poor Jeff, you
Poor
never
Jeff.
got it.
No, he never got it.
Package not found.
Poor guy. Okay, and how much of that map do you feel like it's handcrafted, and how much it's a very dead world?
It is.
So
It is a very. It is an empty world in a lot of
yes,
ways. There you will find enemies. Sometimes you will even find other porters because your character is a porter. What he does is he transports stuff from place to place. You will
right.
find other porters depending on how good of a job you do traversing the world. There's certain conditions that unlock other porters showing up, and sometimes they'll even give you stuff. Like they might give you a PCC, which is one thing that you can use to construct structures and whatnot. But a lot of the world, this is weird to answer because in one there are locations in the world that I feel like they just kind of like phoned it in because it's kind of a bit of a messy looking area. But then
Mm,
it's like you notice that it might be built that way purposefully to prevent you from traversing that specific area with vehicles.
got it.
So
Okay.
they want you to go through certain areas without being on a vehicle, and they
Hmm.
want you to utilize other tools to navigate.
Yeah, I think they did that back in in that demo where they dumped the motorcycle, and then they went on foot. Even though I looked at those rocks and said, "I bet I could make that motorcycle
Oh,
go."
dude, I can make that motorcycle go everywhere, dude. I've made that
Yeah.
motorcycle go to places that you would never even dream of. But
Right.
you can get to a point like looking back at how I played the game, because at the start of the game, you don't have a motorcycle. And
Hmm.
when I first got the motorcycle, I was like, dude, I'm taking this everywhere, like, not even a problem. So there's this specific location very early on that you have to go through where, dude, it's just a nightmare to take your motorcycle through there. And
Mm.
I recently went back and I went to that same area just out of curiosity. And I tried traversing it by foot, and it took me like less than 1/5 of the time it took me to take the goddamn bike through that place. So yeah, you can take the bike to a lot of places, but you can't take it everywhere because there will just be like locations, for instance, where just there's just a big cliff in front of you. There's no way for
Hmm.
you to take the bike down there. It's gonna
Right.
explode if you jump down
Right.
there. So you have to
And
actually climb
yeah.
down.
And these moments like this is the game, this is the experience. It's okay, how do I get to that place, and I'm gonna have to
Exactly.
dump this, I'm gonna have to, maybe I can carry this, or I have to change routes, or
You're
whatever,
you're
and maybe I'm gonna
always
think about this place, like this hard place to traverse, maybe think about it as, all right, how do I traverse this next time I have to get past here? Maybe I can build something, maybe I can do. Yeah.
exactly, but
All right.
and that's where the community part of it really comes together because like I know that a lot of games have been trying to do the whole multiplayer thing where there's stuff that other people do that influences your world. This is potentially one of the games in my opinion that has done it the best because you're going remember the example that I gave you earlier in the stream where you had the three rivers between the two locations, right?
Yeah.
There's potential for something that someone else has built to show up in your world.
Right.
Now the thing is, there's three rivers. There's never going to show up three bridges in your world. They're never going to give you the whole solution. They're going to give you something that someone else built to make it easier for them, and then it's up to you whether you want to complete it or you want to do something else completely different. Because a question that I also got asked earlier was, okay, well, what if someone builds something that I don't want and it shows up in my world? You can delete everything. Anything that shows up in your world, you can just go up to it, delete. I don't want this here.
Huh.
So you can make your own solutions, or you can utilize something that someone else has placed there and kind of complement the stuff that they've done. And the cool thing about it is that you know that eventually the stuff that you've done is going to show up on someone else's world and
Right.
complement their experience. And that I thought was just pretty cool. I mean, I did almost get killed once because Yang Ye put like a generator. And a generator, like, you use that to recharge, like, the batteries of vehicles or the batteries of your exoskeleton or something like that. And he put a generator, like, right in the vicinity of an enemy camp. So I didn't realize that was an enemy camp. And so I was like, oh, dude, I'm running out of juice in my motorcycle. There's a generator right there. And I go there. Oh, it was made by Yong. Yeah. Then as I go there, an alarm goes off, and I'm like, crap, this is an enemy camp. And there were enemies chasing after me and stuff, and I almost died because of that. So it's not always a good thing, but you know, it is cool that sometimes you're in a really bad spot, you're completely out of tools, and you just see like a rope that is going to allow you to make the rest of your path a little bit easier, and that is really great.
I do want to play devil's advocate here, and regarding the person who had the concern of what if someone makes something in my world that I don't like. Now you can simply delete it, but do you think there's like this almost puzzle game element to it where it's satisfying to figure out the solution to be like, oh, I know I can just build this and it makes my life easier, but because someone else did it first, like you didn't come up with that idea and you missed out on that satisfying feeling? Or is it just not that
There
type of game?
there is some of that, and when I started playing the game, I did feel some of that because I was just like, I mean, there's already a rope there, so this is going to be easy. I know that this is going to be something that I can do, but as you play through the game, that kind of stuff, at least to me, it stopped mattering as much. So at the start, I instantly turned it off. The first time that I started seeing like other people's structures show up, I'm like, dude, no, 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 no. I want to explore this in my own way. But because here's the thing. In order for you to build something, you need to be inside this thing called the chiral network, which is what you're using to like connect the cities from one end to the other. You're joining all of these cities under the chiral network.
Okay.
And if a zone is not inside the chiral network, you won't see buildings there, even if other players did them. You can see ladders and ropes and stuff like that, but like not actual generators, bridges, and other meaningful structures. So when you're going through a zone the first time, you're not going to have like the solution spoiled for you. After you traverse that zone and you've reached the first city and you've added it into the chiral network, then you can start seeing some things and you're like, oh, right, I could have came this way instead and done this thing, and that would have been easier.
Interesting. Okay. So would you, now knowing all of this, would you recommend players start
Online.
playing offline and then
Online.
turn it on,
No,
or
no.
always on?
Always online. Always online. Because particularly is like certain sections of the game, if you are playing strictly offline, I think are going to be very grindy. Particularly the part with the highways. Like if you're playing offline there, dude, like there's so many materials, and other players can contribute materials. So it's like
It's definitely built for that community.
yeah, like you're like in a pool of players. You're not like on every players in the world, but you're in a certain pool of players, and you can see the stuff that they've built. It was actually funny that I saw some of Yong Ye's stuff, but you can see what the other players have built. But that pool of players can like kind of like contribute materials to structures. Like you can even just say you want to build a bridge, but you don't have the materials. You can lay the foundation for the bridge. And then while you are doing delivery, somebody else might see your bridge foundation and complete that bridge because it helps them, and then it will show up completed in your world.
Okay. All right. That's all I have on that topic. Maybe move on to maintenance. Like, how much maintenance do you have to do, for instance, on Sam? We saw the room where Sam can rest and he can take a shower and all that. Like, how cumbersome is that survival / maintenance system? You've talked about boots, for instance, running out. Like,
It's not. I mean, again, I was playing in normal difficulty. I don't know if in harder the maintenance gets a little bit harder, but it's like when it comes to Sam, if you're out in the world, Sam essentially has like a stamina gauge, and the more you use stamina, it starts like decreasing. And some of it is recoverable, but some of it decreases until like the next time that you rest, right? So you can recover Sam's stamina by drinking Monster Energy.
is it actually branded?
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah, dude. No, dude, you don't understand. Straight up in his room, there's like the on the very first private rooms that you encounter, there's like straight up five
Oh, that's why Danny
bottles.
O'Dwyer posted a photo on Instagram in a beach with a can of Monster.
Yeah,
Now
dude,
I
there's
understand the
just like
reference.
5 cans of Monster in your room, and you can like drink all of them just like for fun. But the way that they justify when you're drinking Monster out in the field is like Sam has like a magic canteen.
Fucking picture from Danny O'Dwyer. I was like, okay,
And
sure.
the so Sam's magic canteen, what it does is it filters any water that comes in contact with him,
Mm-hmm.
and it transforms that water into Monster Energy.
Perfect. We figured it out. The world is a better place now.
And it's like the worst part. Even Timefall water, if it hits his canteen,
Nice.
gets transformed into Monster Energy.
Because Monster Energy never expires.
Yeah, but
This live stream is brought to you.
by Monster. Yeah, dude, there's a lot of product placement for Monster. And I don't know if Ludens is an actual brand or not, but there's like a bunch of that stuff as well. Cause like the first set of sunglasses that you see with him on the motorcycle, it's supposed to be like Ludens sunglasses or whatever. I don't know if that's a brand too, but you know that they did some of that product placement back in Metal Gear Solid 5 with Kojima's brand of glasses or whatever it was.
Right. Okay. Did not expect that. So you didn't feel like maintenance was a big deal?
It was not a big deal. There are situations where, like, you see, okay, my boots are kind of running thin. It was never really a big issue. Like, I think I might have run out of boots once, and even then, I had like a spare pair, so I just had to
You know
like
what?
replace
If
my
I was
boots.
traveling from east to west in America, I would probably need 2 pairs of boots.
You
I
would
find that
actually no, dude. You would need more because of the way that the terrain is. Like, it's completely it
boots
makes
for the
sense.
terrain though. Like what it's they're meant to be walked on and meant to climb stuff.
Yeah. But what I'm
I don't
trying to
think
say is that
boots would
it's
rip just randomly.
yeah, but that's what I'm trying to get at is it makes sense. It's not like the zombie games where you have a crowbar and like you bash 3 skulls and oh, I broke my crowbar. Like, it's not
Okay.
like that. The terrain that you are walking actually justifies the wear and tear on Sam's equipment. Like, it makes
Gotcha.
sense. So there is a little bit of maintenance, but it's not really that much. Mostly, it's when you get involved into stuff that is very straining, like you need to do a lot of running. Maybe you're running away from enemies or something like that, or maybe you're crossing a lot of rivers, which also drains your stamina. Like, you might get to a point where your stamina gets like really, really bad, and you need to like drink some Monster, get that stamina back up. And eventually, you might actually need to stop in the middle of a run and find a place to actually rest to recover some of your stamina because some of it will not be recoverable. But it was never something that I felt like, oh my God, what a goddamn chore to go through all of these things. It never felt
It
like a chore.
it can happen at an unfortunate time, but it's
Yeah.
not something that will be recurring.
And it's also not just about like maintenance for your stamina and stuff. Is you look at an area, right, and you can even build like towers where you can get like an overview of the area that you're going to go into, so that you can kind of plan it out. Like, oh, maybe I'll use a ladder here or whatever. I never really did that. What I would usually do is like I would go into the thing and I like, okay, give me like 2 ladders, 2 climbing anchors, and hopefully I'll find enough to make it the rest of the way. Because if I don't, I'll just come back and I'll get more materials. But
Right.
yeah, that's the other thing that you need to take into account is that the amount of stuff that you can carry with you is limited, and the gear itself also takes up room in your back. So maybe someone is thinking, oh, I'm going to take like a bunch of guns so that whenever I go meet in with enemies and stuff like that, I'm going to be fully loaded. But like, no,
Right.
what you need to think about is you need to take PCCs so that you can build structures that enable you to then come back. And you need to take climbing anchors in case you need to go down a cliff. You need to take ladders. You need to take stuff that helps you go the mile. You don't really
And you
need
learn
it.
that stuff when you arrive at a place and you're like, I didn't bring it. So you
Yeah,
make a mental note the
exactly.
next time you remember it. Get it. Yeah.
Pretty much. But a big portion of the time that I spent, particularly closer to the end, was actually just like filling out infrastructure. Like, to give you an idea, in the later parts of the game, if I wanted to go back there now and turn stuff in, just like do side quests, I would barely have to move. That's the level of infrastructure that I built. I would barely have to actually walk to do the deliveries that I've done. That's how far I took that stuff. But again,
Cool. You're
that
literally building America, right?
yeah, you're building not just roads. You do build roads, but not in every location, because like you're not going to build highways on the top of a mountain, and you will have to go to the tops of mountains. So there's other tools that they provide to you to navigate that mountain, and that's the type of structures that you will start seeing at that point. I don't want to like talk about all of them, but yeah.
So, yeah, and regarding that, you've talked about seeing other players' creations, and first of all, that is fed to you gradually. That right? That is to say, you're not going to see creations from a player who is on his end game while you're still starting out. Like you're not going to see any, let's say, high level structures.
You will not see structures that you have not unlocked.
Okay, yeah. So they
At
definitely
least
bait you that
at
way.
least I've never seen anything that I had not unlocked. I've never seen a structure that I was like, what the hell was that?
You unlock a lot of stuff, right?
Yes,
big
there's
progression
a
on-
lot of unlocks as you go through the game. There's a lot
Okay.
of stuff to unlock. I haven't unlocked everything.
Okay. And regarding that player pool, did you see any way to maybe force that player pool in a way that lets me play with my friends? So I have a couple of friends who are going to start at the same time as me. I think it would be much more significant if I saw their creations in game rather than someone random.
I think that's the way the system is designed. Unfortunately, I can't confirm that because, I didn't really have anybody else that was.
You have friends in the industry that probably have the game. Did you see any of their stuff in your game?
I don't think. I mean, I have one friend that I know of that was here earlier, split screen, and I didn't see any of his stuff in the game. But I don't know if he was playing offline. I don't know what the deal was. I saw the only name that I recognized was Young Yaz. I saw a bunch of Young Yaz stuff, but Young Yeah is not on my friends list. So
Okay. So yeah, that's what I was wondering if it was somehow pulling from your
but
friends list.
I
give
think it would make
preferential
sense.
treatment.
I think it would make sense that it would pull from your friends list. That's something that I actually said in my review, that I suspect that that's the way that is meant, because it would just be so much cooler, right? Like you're
Right.
going through the game and you see, oh, this friend of mine made this bridge. Like that is a much better experience than just like random stuff from random people. But then
Right,
again,
right.
I've been thinking about that, and there's also the theme about connecting people. So maybe they think it's better to get it from random people. I don't know. I've been rethinking that a lot, but I think it would be better if they would show your friends. I do know that there's something that you can do with players. I don't know exactly what that does though, which is you can perform a strand contract. And you literally just go, there's like a list of players that maybe you've seen their structures or whatever. And you can go to that list and you can say, make a strand contract with this person. And that increases the higher the level you are. So I don't know exactly what that does. I don't remember. I never paid that much attention to it. But I basically went through my list and I would see the players that would be like the higher level and the ones that had the most likes. and I just made a strand contract with all of them.
The big ones get big. That's how it works on social media. I actually want to read a comment from your chat.
Go
because
ahead.
This is a pretty good.
I'm letting you
pretty good
lead.
concern.
I'm letting you lead the conversation, so you're gonna have to
Yeah.
be the one that
So-
goes through the chat stuff.
This comes from Jacob Simon. He says, that would be annoying if the community structures constantly change as you are going. What if I'm relying on a structure someone else has built, but it changes? Does
It
this
doesn't.
happen?
It doesn't.
Okay.
Whenever
So if you've
it's
seen
like
something that's in your world forever,
or
unless
until you
delete it.
delete it. Yeah,
Right,
it's in there forever until you delete it. It doesn't change. So like the bridges that I saw in my world when I first started playing, they're still there. So that all of that stuff is like, I think it's generated the first time that you arrive to a location. They kind of populate that with a couple of structures the first time that you add something to the chiral network. And those structures don't change. There is, however, something to keep in mind, which is structures deteriorate. So they require
because of the
maintenance
rain, too.
because of the
Right.
time fall. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's
Okay.
like there is the possibility for stuff disappearing, but it's not because it's being replaced. It's because timefall has damaged it, and nobody in your player pool has done any maintenance on that structure. That hasn't happened to me
Maintenance on
though.
Structures too.
I didn't need to
See,
maintenance.
this is where this game starts to lose me, honestly.
No, but
Like,
here's the thing.
really?
In my 55 hours, I've never had to maintain anything.
Oh, okay. In that
I've
case,
built it the first time, and after I've built it, I never went back to add any more materials or anything else to it. I believe that if you spend long enough, like say you finish the game and you're still playing for a considerable amount of time because you want to unlock more stuff, you want to do all the optional quests, you want to do premium delivery quests, which is something that you can. It's like at some point in the game they unlock something that lets you like impose additional restrictions on yourself when you do deliveries, so you can change the mode in which you do a delivery to become a premium delivery, and that delivery will add something to it, like okay, so now you have 25 minutes to make this delivery, or now you need to deliver this cargo and you can't lose any of it because sometimes you can deliver partial, or now this can't have more than 50% damage. They impose additional restrictions. So if someone is really into the delivery system and they go back and they start doing premium deliveries and whatnot, structures will start wearing down eventually, and I would imagine they can even get destroyed. And at that point, you'll have to rebuild them, I would imagine. But again, throughout my 55 hours, I never had to do maintenance on anything.
That's also, this is a 3-week period, right? And I bet since your buildings are showing up in other players' worlds, they are not deteriorating based on your playtime. They are deteriorating based on real time. So if you are going to play this sporadically over the course of like 2 months, then maybe the stuff you built 2 months ago will
That
need some
might be the
renewal,
case.
right?
At that particular system, I don't know if
Right.
that's
It
how it
hasn't
works.
been
But
enough time.
yeah, exactly.
Right. Okay. I have one final topic.
Okay.
The fuck's up with the Sam Rita's dating sim? When you
Dating
go into
sim?
that room and you can like tickle him or whatever, or you can not tickle him, but like you can look at him making funny faces and stuff like that.
Oh,
What?
the room stuff.
So
That's just
first of all,
Kojima.
that's just Kojima. That's completely optional. You don't have to mess with that stuff, right?
There's some things that you can do in the room that appear to have some benefit. I'm not sure if I should. I mean, there's nothing in the embargo that prohibits me from revealing that, but I'm not sure if I want to talk about that stuff.
Okay.
But it's like,
Then let me put the question like this: when you arrive at one of those rooms, which are resting spots, first
yeah.
of all, do you take the rest? Do you stop the journey? Is there a reason to stop the journey and just go to sleep, go to rest, to just take a break?
I mean, there's the stamina that I told you about, which there's
Okay.
parts of it that are not recoverable after you've been out for a while. And if you
All
just
right.
go down there and you sleep, you get that stamina back.
Okay.
There's certain resources that they give you for resting.
Mm-hmm.
But other than that, it's just there's certain parts of the story where they kind of like force you. It's like you want to advance the story, you got to rest,
Okay.
because then they'll trigger like a cutscene or something like that after you wake up. But
Gotcha.
if you're just like doing regular deliveries, the only reason to stop and rest is if you feel like your stamina is getting really bad, or if you don't want to deal with Sam being all dirty from being full of tar in his face or something like that.
Right, because some of the pre-release stuff showed that his feet were bleeding and stuff like that. So
That's
I feel
stuff
like
like.
these breaks are mandatory or should be. I don't know.
They're not mandatory. It's just you can get yourself to a point where your stamina is just so low that you do need to rest, and the fastest way to recover it is doing it
Hmm.
at one of those rooms.
Okay.
But I never felt like, oh, I got to go over here and rest, unless the story specifically said, hey Sam, you need to go rest now. At
Right.
which can happen every now and then. They will tell like, hey, you should rest before, and then they advance the story during that particular thing. But the whole bleeding feet thing is because of the boots. If you run out of boots, like if your boots go all the way down and you're just like
Uh-huh.
walking on your bare feet, you can bleed, and then you'll
What's
take
what's
damage.
the penalty for doing that? Oh, damage.
You
Okay.
take damage. Sam has a
Got
health bar
Okay. Sure
because
thing.
there still is combat.
So since you don't want to reveal too much of what happens down in that room,
I mean,
would you
I
say
can talk
that
about a lot of stuff. I just don't want to like reveal.
if you don't if you think that's something you shouldn't reveal, then I don't want you to say it.
No,
So
it's you. I according to the embargo, I can tell you everything that happens in the room. I just feel like I would rather leave something for the players to discover. But let's just say
obviously.
the biggest thing about the room is for you to play around with your Norman Reedus avatar. That's the
Okay.
biggest thing. So it's like you can
But
you
since
can you can put him in the shower, and
uh-huh.
the shower cutscene is actually like really detailed.
Okay.
So they'll pan a camera through his naked body.
Okay.
Okay, he's like rubbing himself and stuff with soap, and he's like actively
Mhm.
showering. And
Can you shower before going to bed? Because in that demo they
no,
went to bed before showering.
no,
Fuck that.
yeah, it's
What?
disgusting. No, it's like if you're all dirty and shit, and you arrive at a room, your character's like boom. He just like throws himself onto the bed, all dirty and shit, and then he wakes up all dirty. And I was like, damn.
Someone will change these sheets, not me.
Exactly. Like that's exactly how I felt too. I'm like, how can you not shower before you go to bed? You can also
It's messed
take
up.
you can take a dump and you can piss in the shower. I mean, not in the shower. There's like a toilet unit inside the shower.
Yeah, no, I saw that.
Yeah.
And
So
you
those
get
would be
some
things.
materials on.
Those would be things that I would do before I showered, right? So like first I go
Right.
in there, I poop, and then I shower. You know, that's kind of like the natural way of doing things.
Right. So without revealing like the stuff that happens in the room, obviously, whenever you saw one of those rooms, do you feel like you had this sort of ritual of, okay, I'm gonna do these 4 things and then I'm gonna go get back to the adventure?
I did it because I kept waiting for like something special to happen for doing some of these actions,
Hmm.
but I think the
Oh,
only
you
thing
you were
that
searching for Easter eggs or
yeah,
stuff
I
like
was
that?
I was trying to search for stuff, and let's just say I did find some interesting things,
Mm.
some really interesting things, but it's not. I wouldn't really call them Easter eggs. It's just stuff that happens in the room that is cool, but it's nothing game breaking. If you just want to go into the room and then just instantly get the hell out of there, you can do that. There are certain rooms after you get this thing added where if you have a drink before you leave, like it will give you a stamina bonus. But
Mm.
you know,
Okay.
besides
Uh,
besides that, like most of the stuff that you do in the room is optional.
so there's definitely some stuff in there that you can miss
Yeah,
if
yeah,
you don't play
but
around.
it's
Okay.
like I never really felt like I had to do it. Right, it was never one of those things where oh man, I got to make sure that I do all of these things.
Well,
Otherwise, one of the things that I would
sometimes.
always do is shower because like I don't like watching Norman Reedus like all full of fudge in his face and
Right.
stuff. Like I
Right.
would shower every time.
So it's because sometimes Kojima games do feel like that. They feel like, well, I'm gonna go there because I'm afraid of missing out on something. I'm afraid of missing out on an event, on a cutscene that he might have hidden away there.
I mean, there
So
might there might be stuff that he hid that I didn't find. So there's
right,
also
but,
that.
but well, did you find any of that stuff?
Yes,
Did you find anything that was off the beaten path there? You were like, I'm glad I explored this place because not just because I got some random material or whatever, but no, this
yes,
here's an experience that I wouldn't get otherwise.
yes.
Okay, great.
There is one thing that I just
This
started
game is
doing
gonna
every
drive me
time.
nuts.
No, dude, it's not. It's like it's one action. You'll probably figure it out super fast
Mm.
as if you just play around a little bit with the room. There is one action that does sometimes trigger interesting things, but it's not really a massive deal. Okay.
Okay, sure thing. All right.
But
I don't want
the
to
room
poke
is
anymore.
cool. I'll tell you that right now. The whole room thing is cool, and if you actually
Yeah,
just stay there, because like
not a creepy dating sim
no, it's
vibes.
not
No,
because
okay.
there's no like it's not like he's actually interacting with you or anything. Like he'll acknowledge the camera and he'll break the fourth wall. Like sometimes I remember one of the things that I can tell you, for instance, is that sometimes you'll get to the room and he's all dirty, right? And he might like gesture at you like please, and then point to the shower, right? Stuff like
Hmm.
that.
Right. Okay. I don't want to poke anymore, so I don't know if you want to take this to chat and chat can ask questions now, or if we're just
I'm
done.
surprised you didn't ask anything at all about BTs. Like BTs are such
I
a
don't want to know. I don't want to know. Like that's a story thing. Like,
no,
well,
no, but I'm not talking about. I'm talking about BTs as a gameplay mechanic.
as a gameplay mechanic, yeah, that seems mysterious. But I'm afraid that would reveal something about their nature. I don't know.
I talked about it in the
If chat
review.
wants to know, I'm okay. But I don't. I kind of don't want to know.
You really don't want to know? Okay, no, that's
It's
fine.
it. It's not. I bet it wouldn't ruin the game for me, but if I can go in not knowing, I'd rather do that.
Okay, no, it's okay. Like I did mention it in my review, so be warned. I explained how BTs work from a gameplay perspective.
From a
But
gameplay perspective, yeah,
yeah,
I
yeah,
think that's fine.
from a
Yeah, I mean,
gameplay.
if you feel like that's an important part
It
of
is
the experience,
because
maybe we should talk about it here.
like we talked about combat. We'd never really
Yes.
specified what can happen. And like I said, people can steal your gear, you can steal their gear, all of that stuff. But usually combat is just like stuff that is between you, like between your area A and area B, right? You're going from A to B, and there might be like an enemy camp in between, for instance.
Right.
But instead of just an enemy camp, there might be a BT encounter instead. So it's like when there's really heavy timefall, you can have something where the BTs show up.
Right.
And that's what you need the BB for, the baby.
Yeah.
You know about the baby and all that stuff. The baby can
I
show
saw the
you
Guillermo del Toro trailer
that
where
the
they try to
baby
explain that.
you hook up to the baby, and the baby is able to actually show you where the BTs are so that you can navigate around them.
Right.
Because if you can't let BTs touch you. Like that's a problem. That's a serious problem. And that can actually trigger boss fights if they actually catch you in those situations. But BTs change the game in a way where it's like, whereas when you're going through a camp, right, you know what to expect. There's enemies there. They might have weapons. They might shoot at you. They might throw stuff at you. They'll try to grab you. They'll try to steal stuff from you. BTs is more like a horror thing. Because it's very mysterious and you can't see them. Like the baby will try to show you through the little thing that bleaks the shoulder mounted thing. It's called an Odra deck. So that thing, it opens and closes. The more it opens and closes, the closer the BTs are.
Okay.
If it starts spinning around, there's a BT like right in front of you. And you always have to be aware of where they are and you're trying to avoid them. It's instead of being something that's about combat, it's more about avoiding combat.
Right.
And it kind of gives the game like a completely different pace when you're in those situations. Because imagine like you got, I don't know, 10 tons of, well, not 10 tons. You can't really get 10 tons, but you can get like, I don't know, 200 kilos of cargo on your back. And you're just like sneaking around BTs and you can like hold your breath as a mechanic to stop from being detected. But usually you want to try to avoid those.
Okay. All right.
And then there's
So that's
also
stealth. Yeah.
there's also boss fights. There's also like
And
specific boss fights that you have to go through. But that I'm not going to go into details.
Oh, you
about
have to
those.
go through them. Okay.
Yeah, you can't avoid boss fights. You will have. There are parts in the game where you do have to fight.
Okay.
There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. You will have to fight certain
Got it.
creatures that show up. Stuff.
Sure thing.
And then there's Troy Baker. You've seen Troy Baker?
I've seen Troy Baker.
I like his character a lot.
Good.
It's really cool. It's
like you love the story. I imagine characters are a big part of.
Oh, dude, it's just because here's the thing: you look at every character as you are going through the story, and you start like identifying things about them, and you might notice like a little detail about that character that doesn't look normal. Like, hey, regular person wouldn't look like that. Why is that? There's a reason. Every little detail, there is a reason.
It's Kojima. I would expect.
Dude. There's so much attention to detail. The cinematography of the cutscenes and all of that stuff is just brutal. I loved it.
Cool. I think I'm gonna buy this game. I said at the beginning I was more curious to know what it was than playing it, but
I mean,
what
what were you were saying that you just thought it was going to be like a delivery simulator type of thing, right?
I mean, I saw the combat and all of that, and I thought the core gameplay was just going to be the delivery stuff. I didn't think of it as much as a construction sim, the way you put it, like the way you're building infrastructures to sort of facilitate mobility in a way. That part of it I didn't have, and I thought it would be more linear, going from, let's say, going from point A to point B. You're never going back to that point A. because you're making the journey from coast to coast. But there is more backtracking than I was expecting.
Yes, there
So-
definitely is, and sometimes it will even be through main story missions. Like something might happen, like certain conditions in the world change. And they're like, "Oh no, you have to come back quick because this thing happened." Like that
Right.
stuff will take place. But it is important for everyone to know. I think probably the most important thing is that there is no sudden twist of gameplay. Like the gameplay evolves. Like
You build more stuff.
you build more stuff, you get more gear, you
Right.
streamline certain things, and you even get access to vehicles at some points. So the gameplay does evolve, but it doesn't suddenly change. You're not going to begin the game by doing deliveries, and then halfway through it becomes a murder simulator. Like that's
Right.
never a thing.
Okay. No, I'm fine with that, I guess. Okay. That I don't know what else to say. I kind of don't want to. I kind of don't want to know anything else.
I understand, and I do think that there really isn't that much more to say without going into actual spoiler territory.
Right.
But yeah, also remember, if you guys haven't watched, there's the review on the channel, and make sure to check out Globku. You got to link yourself again in chat, and I'm gonna put the description thing in immediately
Don't
after.
do that. Don't come to the channel.
He's using reverse psychology on you guys.
I'm stuck. Look, there's a beta for a game called One Punch Man, a hero nobody knows. I'm gonna wake up at 6 a.m. tomorrow and stream that on
Oh
Twitch.
my god, dude!
And it's a bad game. This is my life. I'm stuck playing bad anime games for the rest of my life. You don't want to be a part of it. You don't want to be a part of it.
I would like to
Stay
answer.
away.
I would like to answer the question by Wilson as like the final thing. Would you rate how would you rate this game, and do you think it's a Game of the Year contender? That's a very interesting question. Like for start, I don't do ratings. I don't do like some random number out of 10.
But you do Game of the Year.
I do Game of the Year. It is not a
What's your
game
Game of the Year so far?
It is not a Game of the Year for me. I haven't thought about my Game of the Year so far because
Give me a good contender.
I mean it's hard because I already know that the game that I like playing the most this year is Iceborne, but Iceborne's a DLC, so I don't think it's
That
fair.
counts.
It counts.
No.
Well, I mean,
games are live now. Games don't end.
If
don't
it
don't start and
counts-
end on the year they come out.
if it counts, then it's definitely Iceborne. Like it's not even but this one is very good. This one's definitely going to be in the list. I'll tell you that. I usually do a
Cool.
top 10 list of games of the year, and
This is on
Death
top 10.
Stranding is going to be on the top 10 for sure because
Awesome.
the story is that good. Like I really enjoyed the story.
Cool.
All right, guys, that is going to be it. If you guys enjoyed this podcast, make sure to hit the like button. Thank you all very much for watching. I'll see you guys on the next one. I'm not exactly sure what I'm doing tomorrow, but we'll figure something out. And peace out, team. Remember, the review is also on the channel if you're curious about more. See you guys later.
Bye.